Hey there guys, and welcome back to Fandom for All. Today is not a toy review Tuesday. We're going to postpone that to next week. Today is a trailer Tuesday. We have a new film trailer to break down and discuss. And that is of course the trailer for Sony Pictures and associated with Marvel's Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Now, this is a sequel to the first Venom picture starring Tom Hardy and Michelle Williams and Woody Harrelson from 2016, 2017, 2018. You let me know. I don't really keep up with times. But we're just going to break down a few of the prominent shots in this trailer. We're not going to talk about everything in this trailer. We're going to talk about the big stuff that has ties to the comics, ties to the greater universe, and so on and so forth. I was a big fan of the first one. Not many people were, but I really did enjoy the first Venom. I think Tom Hardy's performance as like a little dorky Eddie Brock was a new and interesting take on the character, and I enjoyed it. The character design is the biggest standout for that movie. Topher Grace's Venom was a disaster, and this is a redemption in every aspect of the word. Tom Hardy's Venom design is near perfect. It just needs something, in this area, in the chest. But maybe we'll get that in the future. Maybe we won't. Maybe this movie will leave the door open for multiverse stuff or for Marvel to do their own symbiote story, which would be great. And I have some ideas for that we might talk about in another video if it ever gets announced, So let's start with this trailer breakdown. Now, the first shot of the trailer, we get a little tiny teaser, that says trailer starts now. They love doing those these days. I don't know what they're about, why people love doing them, but they do. And so we get one of those, and it shows a few little hints to things that happen later on. But the first shot of the real trailer is a skyline of San Francisco, to establish location, to say we're back where we were in the first one. And I have to give props to the director, Andy Serkis, who you may know from Planet of the Apes, The Hobbit, Black Panther, and Age of Ultron. He's everywhere. Andy Serkis is one of the most popular working actors today. I consider him on the level, he's like the Doug Jones of CGI, Doug Jones is makeup, Andy is CGI, and there you go. So I'm very excited to see his take on this universe, but props to Andy Serkis for keeping it very obvious within the same timeline, same universe. The lighting, the cinematography, it's all the same. So it feels like an extension, like a direct extension of that first picture. And that's the kind of stuff that I look for in sequels. So I appreciate that. So the skyline of San Francisco. And then the next shot is a pizza box unfolded on the wall that says rules, no eating people. And, Venom in the first one had his run-in with eating people quite a few times, whether it was their heads or, like the robber at the end of the movie, the entire person. People on Reddit and 4chan probably had a heyday with that, don't you think? So, it says no eating people, but what is around the apartment are live chickens. So I'm wondering if Venom likes to, chase after bait sometimes, chase after his own food, like a predator. Which would be interesting to see expanded on in this movie and to see maybe a little comedic bit of him chasing down chickens. I like comedic stuff and I like dark stuff and I like really good blends. The first one had some great comedy, but it needed a little bit more. So this looks like they're really taking cues from Marvel Studios and how they do their pictures. But we open on Venom making breakfast for Eddie. Eddie's just trying to pour a glass of orange juice, and Venom is doing everything else, cracking the eggs, making the waffles, making the milkshake, yada yada, and singing. He's singing a song, and it's great. It's great comedy to see that Venom has adjusted to Earth life as best as, an alien carnivorous symbiote can, right? And I think it's important to see that Eddie and Venom still don't really mesh, that Eddie really still doesn't like being a host. You know, he seems miserable because it's a contrast to the fact that Cletus absolutely loves being mixed with a symbiote, and that eventually might lead to Cletus's downfall, you know, and that would be another interesting thing. I had this idea a few days ago or yesterday watching the trailer that, you know, what if at the end of this movie Carnage just opens up and like bones fall out, you know, like he killed Cletus long ago and it's been Carnage the whole time. I'd be interested in that too. Or maybe, you know, we'll talk about this later when we get to the point, but Cletus might actually die very early on in this picture. But we'll discuss that when we get there. Next is the breakfast that Venom makes Eddie is just absolutely disgusting. It kind of looks like those new popular milkshakes that they make where they throw everything into the top of them, you know, or the sundaes, like an overstuffed sundae. You know, there's waffles, there's egg shells, there's a glass of orange juice, there's a milkshake. It's just, but you know, as Venom says, yummy. He thinks that's what Eddie would like, but it's really what Venom wanted, you know. That's what I get, is that Venom wanted this massive mass of food. I feel that, by the way, you know. Anyway, the breakfast is gross, but then we get this beautiful foreshadowing in the fact that Venom squeezes a bottle of ketchup and it explodes all over Eddie's shirt, and Eddie's shirt is a San Francisco. It's like the Golden Gate Bridge. Blood, ketchup being red, you know, it kind of looks like a big old blood stain over something symbolizing the city that they live in, because as we know, there's gonna be carnage, as Woody said in the first film. We then move on to the title card for Sony Pictures and in association with Marvel. So it tells us right there, unless they pull a sneaky on us, this picture is not an MCU continuity film at all. It could become that in No Way Home by use of multiverse, but it is not Earth 616, as Mysterio put it, you know. And then we see Venom in the bodega where Mrs. Chen works, and he speaks to Mrs. Chen and Venom speaks to her, but Eddie has to translate for Venom. He says hi, because Mrs. Chen cannot hear Venom when he is inside, you know. We can hear him and Eddie can, but no one else can. Everyone else only hears him when he is in control, when it is Venom, you know. And so we see Venom straighten a magazine, and this was just so touching. You know, this gooey black tentacle arm straightening a tabloid-looking magazine with Stan Lee on the cover, and that's very touching. You know, he was the old man at the end walking his animal of the first one, but now, since Stan has so sadly passed on, we get small touching tributes in the form of print or screen. It's really nice, and the fact that Venom makes direct contact with that magazine was touching to me, you know. And so then we get to see the police officers preparing Cletus for lethal injection. It's a little bit of an interesting departure from his comic book origin, where Cletus Cassidy is Eddie Brock's cellmate in either Alcatraz or Ravencroft. I'm pretty sure it's Ravencroft. That's the big Arkham Asylum building for Spider-Man characters. And, you know, Eddie leaves, but leaves a piece of the symbiote behind, and it attaches itself to Cletus. Now, I'm wondering if when Eddie continues to commute to Alcatraz and communicate with Cletus, if a bit of Venom gets left there and works its way into the lethal injection fluid, and that's how they fuse. So that's what I was talking about. You know, we'll get to that a few points down, but it's quite important, and I'll discuss that in a minute. And so then we see the main cop character with the magazine, and the magazine says, "The Hidden Victims of Cletus Cassidy." Cletus Cassidy is Woody Harrelson, and it's interesting that he's, you know, it seems like he's chasing down either all symbiotes or Venom, particularly right now. I'm sure he's going to be like a, you know, at first I had the theory that maybe he was going to be George Stacy, which would be interesting. You know, he's like, you know, taking a stance. This monster can no longer, kind of a blend between J. Jonah and George Stacy, which would be a really interesting character if you think about it. A cop that's kind of paranoid about the heroes or the anti-heroes of this city. And he closes the magazine, and for a split frame, there is newspapers behind him on either side, and the title, the headline, seems to refer to the Avengers. Now, it could say passengers or messengers, but it's intentionally supposed to inspire the thought of Avengers for people who catch it. It's very brief, and there's an image of it right there for you to look at. Then we get to see Ravencroft from the outside, and of course it's got the big arc on the gate. Kind of looks like Arkham Asylum. So that is the Ravencroft Institute, and like I mentioned, it houses the worst of the worst within the Spider-Man universe, so it is somewhat like Arkham Asylum for Spider-Man characters. And then we see Shriek, which you can tell by the little scar on her eye, which is a prominent feature of Shriek Once Upon a Time. And her actress Naomi Harris and Andy Serkis have both hinted at the fact that she forms a lifelong bond with her childhood sweetheart, who I'm thinking is Cletus Cassidy. That's my thought. It's either Cletus or Eddie, but I really think it's Cletus. And then we get our first full look at Cassidy. Full frontal face, everything. Without the goofy clown wig. I feel like Andy Serkis came in and was like, okay, the first thing we're doing is we're getting rid of that thing. That mop that you've put on Woody's head. And I appreciate that, because I hated that wig. The movie was going so great, and then in the post-credit scene, Woody Harrelson in a Ronald McDonald wig trying to look scary. Didn't work. But you know what's scary? Cletus in this trailer. He's intimidating. And that is an important part of who Cletus Cassidy is. The man is a serial killer. The man is a psychopath who believes that he believes that he's setting his victims free from life. That death is what he offers, and that it's a good thing, And so then we get to see the execution gone wrong. They inject Cletus, but somehow the symbiote fuses with him, and he crashes through the operation theater, and probably wreaks all hell on everyone in those seats, including possibly family and friends. At that point, he's a monster. He doesn't care. He was a monster already, but at this point, he's a literal monster. Doesn't care. And then we see Ravencroft burning, and two people walking out of Ravencroft. My theory is that is Cletus and Shriek, that they've met, rekindled, and are leaving together as the two antagonists of this film. And then we see Venom, his head kind of arching over the head of the police detective character. And I've waited until now to reveal his name. Serkis revealed his name, and his name is Detective Mulligan. And I think he is Detective Patrick Mulligan. Yes, you heard it here, folks. Toxin might be in this movie. We've got Carnage, we've got Venom. Who's to say that this poor, unsuspecting cop can't become a symbiote as well? Now, I do not think this is a death scene right here. I do not think Venom is going to eat Patrick Mulligan's head. What I do think, however, is that Eddie may be talking to someone else, and Venom consciously goes after Mulligan, akin to the scene from the Frank Oz film, which is a favorite film of mine, Little Shop of Horrors, in which Audrey 2, as a adolescent, attempts to bite at a receptionist as Seymour isn't looking. I feel like we're going to get a scene like that. Both of these movies, especially the first one, have felt like they have been heavily inspired by Little Shop, and I appreciate that, and I think that's why I love them so much. Dork guy gets alien superpower monster that eats people, and he has to satiate it, for a price. Right? Okay, that's what I'm thinking. And maybe Carnage is more like that. Carnage is telling Cletus, you have to kill people, I'll give you everything you want, and then by the end of it, he actually kills Cletus himself. And then, of course, after that, we get our first look at the big bad boy himself. First time ever in a live-action property, Carnage. And he is scary as heck. Trying not to get demonetized, but, scary as heck. Tentacles, arms, everything. And you can see tentacles in like the shape of maces, weapons. It's just looks like it's been ripped right off of a page and thrown onto the screen. The translation is beautiful. I wish he had a little bit more black and a little more of a darker red, but maybe once we get the final picture, we'll see that. Who knows? And then we get the title card, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. It's a weird name. Could have done something better, but it works. You know, it works for what it is. And then we get the cute little button scene at the end where Eddie goes in to the bodega once again, and Mrs. Chen is like, the chocolate delivery is late. And they're like, we had a deal. And Venom's like, I am happy to eat Mrs. Chen. And Eddie's like, no, you cannot eat Mrs. Chen. And she goes, what? And he goes, nothing. And then we get one more glorious shot of Carnage. And like most Spider-Man movies that feature symbiotes, he's in a church. The Daily Bugle is seen throughout this trailer as well, and the Daily Bugle logo is the Raimi logo, as well as in the Morbius trailer, and you know, these movies are supposedly connected, we see Raimi's Spider-Man in a graffiti art on the wall. Now, I don't think this is a retcon of Spider-Man 3. It very well could be a retcon of Spider-Man 3, and that when Tobey is introduced in No Way Home, we see him facing off against these characters, which would be interesting. But my point of view is that this universe fits more in line with the Mark Webb Spider-Man pictures, with the Andrew Garfield lead. That is where these films fit, in my opinion. And I would really like to see Andrew Garfield go up against this Venom and this Carnage. And, you know, it'd be a really sly way of Sony for Sony to continue those pictures. And maybe we'll see that come to fruition this December. Fingers crossed. So that was my breakdown of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and its first trailer. I really do look forward to this picture. I've looked forward to this movie since the first one. I've wanted to see Carnage represented in live action form for a very long time now, and we're finally getting it, and that is a blessing, and super excited to see what they do with the character. At first I was iffy on the casting. You know, I thought people like Walton Goggins or Cameron Monaghan would be Cletus Cassidy to a T. But I really am interested to see what Woody does with the character. I think he's very intimidating. I think Woody is a very talented actor. And maybe Cameron Monaghan, due to his age, might be a Carnage if Marvel Studios ever does the symbiotes, which I really hope they will and wish they would. But that would probably require, you know, consuming Sony Studios in some form. But that's what Disney does every day, isn't it? Love you. But yeah, so I look forward to this picture. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Let me know what you think of this trailer down below. Let me know what you want me to do. If you want me to do a shot by shot, which I'm open to doing. I've never done one, but who knows? So you let me know what you want from me down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to all of our social medias. They're in the description down below. I want to thank you guys for watching once again, and I hope to see you guys in the next video that we do together. All right, guys, peace out. Have a great, great day.